New research looking into the impact of loneliness reveals it can be as risky as smoking 15 cigarettes a day, causing a raft of health concerns. But my guest today says loneliness is not the end of the story and that there actually might be a purpose behind it. Lydia Brownback, welcome.
It's great to be here.
You wrote Finding God in My Loneliness, and I found this so surprising because I thought you were going to say in this book, okay, you shouldn't be lonely. You have a God that loves you. What's wrong with you? But you actually said God actually created us to be lonely.
Well, that's the first thing to discover about why it's not a hopeless condition. When you think about the fact that God created Adam and then said it is not good that he be alone, the implication is that something was missing even before the fall, before sin entered the world. And so God shaped Adam and then all people after him with a void, sort of, that's meant to find its fulfillment, its completion only in God himself. And it's actually a gift, because if it weren't for that empty place, we would never seek for God. We would never search for him. We wouldn't find that something missing. We wouldn't even know there was something missing.
So we have this feeling there's something missing, and so many times, even for us who know God, but for those of us who don't as well, we, instead of pursuing him, we're pursuing everything else. We're trying to fill it with anything that we can. So food, activities, people. What are we trying to fill it with?
Well, when we see it as a problem to solve, something to fix, what we divorce that from where the fulfillment's found. We live on this completely horizontal plane. Instead of directing our gaze vertically up to the Lord, we look around, we see what other people have and what we seem to be missing. And you know, I think social media has been a big contributing factor to this loneliness problem. You look at somebody's Facebook page and all the happy beach vacations and smiling faces, it's fake. It's not real. Nobody is their Facebook page, if you think about it. I mean, you see that happy beach vacation, smiling families. What we don't see is the big fight that family had right before that picture was taken, or the fight they're going to have when the camera is set back down. The reality is everyone struggles with loneliness, and yet we put this face forward on social media and in the world around us that everything is great, we're happy, we're fulfilled and complete. And when we see that in others, we want what they have, we think something's missing in us, but we don't realize they're going through the same thing, trying to put on the same front we're trying to put on. And that creates even more loneliness, because we feel like, what's wrong with me? Something must be wrong with me that I can't find what everybody else has. What am I doing wrong with my life? So we reach out for one more way to try to fill it up, and that doesn't work either. And it's an endless cycle of trying to fill it on a horizontal plane. It just doesn't work.
So only if I had more money, if I had plastic surgery,
if I looked better, if I had a better relationship, if I had a new relationship, or
drugs, alcohol, sex. I mean, people reach for anything. And the funny thing is, so that doesn't satisfy.
No.
None of those things ultimately fill your loneliness. That moment when you're all alone by yourself in the middle of the night, you have to acknowledge it's not working. And then we get mad at God.
Yeah.
Right? So we don't go to him to fill our loneliness, and then we get mad at God. And you say it's because we have a skewed image of him. How does that work?
Well, we look at him as, instead of seeing him for who he is for us, we focus on what we want him to do for us. And so he becomes nothing more than, well, he's there to fulfill all my needs and to provide everything I need in this life. And he does. He blesses us with so much. But ultimately, our fulfillment is found in having a relationship with him. That's what he wants to give us. And if we will seek him in those lonely places, in those darkest hours, and I think for many of us it's nighttime. It's those of us who live alone, or even those who don't live alone. It's something about the sun going down, and at the end of the workday, we can't keep as busy doing things we were doing all day. It backs up on us. And that's when we're thinking about what everyone else is doing, or we're going to escape any way we can. So we turn on the clicker and we drink, we eat, we do whatever we can to fill that time until bedtime, and just to get away from that feeling. Because underneath it, we're thinking that God hasn't been good to us. We are blaming him for our loneliness instead of turning to him and saying, you have the answer for it. And we have a wrong view of him, because we think that the answer that he needs to give us is defined in the terms, these earthly terms of what we think is going to fulfill. And he's saying, I'm not necessarily going to withhold those things from you. I love to bless you with those things, but you're really only going to find them to be a blessing if you first find that I'm the greatest treasure you could ever have.
That's such a good word. Well, we're going to unpack more about this book, but we want to get a copy of Finding God in our loneliness, in my loneliness, into your hand. It's an amazing book. Here's how you can get your copy.